Hello everyone. I hope you're doing well today. You know, for some months I've been taking pictures off the stereo images and working on them to highlight certain things to see what was going on. And I had collected quite a few of them, thinking to do a video update on it. But some of these things were just so dark and disturbing that I've decided not to do that. Instead, I'll give you a brief update, and for some of the people new, I'll go back over some of the information that we had that leads to these conclusions. So this is an older image going back to the 2020 grayscale. This is our branch moving across the scene. These lines you see are poles, and the planets on them go up and down to avoid things, but the poles go from left to right. The powers that be call this an armature, but we were told it was called a shib. It's where the families, our families, crack the disc open in order to gain access into the area we're locked into. And we watched over the years as they launched weapons from the tip of it at different points within the system. And this is the usual 5x12 size image, and these two are marked Venus and Jupiter, so you understand these are planets. It is, however, what upstairs calls a VA, a virtual, artificially intelligent hologram. And as you can see, the date is recent. And this object on the left is the pit. And the object on the far right, with the rays coming off it, that's the sun. As the years have gone on, we've watched a lot of things go into the pit. As you can see, it's big enough to take whole worlds. And during the war, that things got broken, and they'd be thrown in. According to those above, as the system went around, they'd give off a bell, and everybody had to be in their proper door. And if you weren't, the system trash can, which is what they call the pit, everything fell in that was left outside. So waking the human spirits that had been put to sleep was very important at that time. And we did that. We woke all the spirits up, and we got them to go in the doors that were their appropriate door. And from there, the spirit is what pulls the soul in, the incarnate, their shoe. Remember the phrase, walk a mile in my shoe? That's when the spirit offered to the one and those above time spent with the incarnate so that they could check them out. And what you see on the stereo telescope is reflected in our skies. For the most part, they are one and the same thing. And you see most of it, not all of it, but a good deal of it. The zodiac is a belt that goes around Earth. It does not go around the sun. As Earth rotates around the sun, the belt goes with Earth and rotates around the sun that way. Above says, these are the houses high up in the dome that go to the different planets. For instance, Aries is the house of Mars. In fact, some of them have more than one house. Those above define the real world as heaven and the underworld. and says that we are in the creation, which they define as their movie. And it's taken a very long time to wake people up. There are those who say they've stepped out, but that's not true. There are only two gates out. One is to the right and up to heaven. The other is to the left and down to the underworld. What they can do is step sideways and go into different areas, dimensions, and timelines within this area. But that is an out. The one controls the gates to go out. What they used to say, beyond. Most of the time when we get pulled out, we are pulled into the service hub, which is high up in the dome. The service hub had the bodies, our bodies, in stasis there, as we are projected in to the hologram. And then when we go up, we reconnect with those bodies upstairs. And from that point, they wake us up and move us out. At one point, we had so many people leaving that they were going to use and outfit ships to act as part of the service hub with the bodies. And your families are here. So that everybody came in to help retrieve you. There are a lot of people who left through the death law. And so this lightened up the load in the service hub. It made it more manageable. They've never had a full planet evacuation like this before. We were held as POWs. And neither the system nor the Greys and Reppies wanted to let us leave. The Nordics are under the Reppies. But they had built entire civilizations around harvesting and using humans. So it became quite hard getting the rest of humanity awake enough to make the exit. It's been hard getting humanity to understand that they were inside a mechanism and that it's, for instance, the sun is small enough to fit in your hand. And this is a hand touching the sun as they were making all the different adjustments to it and trying to get people unlocked. And over the years we've seen a lot of instances of hands, fingers, heads showing up on the cameras, and it's quite amazing. And there's been many instances when we've blown up the background, you see all these small dots on the back, and these are actually people walking on the ground. You're looking downward. And when it has a light on it, it is someone walking with an oil lamp. Remember the 7 virgins in the Bible. It is pitch black down there, and they didn't want the oil to get out. They wanted the oil so that they could see this place, even though they know it's ending. They are so attached to it, they would rather stay here in the dark and death than to go to heaven. Heaven is more than just fluffy white clouds. It is a place where worlds exist. The one is the parent branch of mankind. There are 7 other branches above. That's why they would say 8 above and 9 below. Because below was keeping us captive, not many of the 9 survived. When you stand up out of your body in death, barring any interference, you get the awe. The awe is when you see the face of the one who sits upon the throne. All parents must obey the tree of life. It is one law for all. And a lot of what you've seen going on here since they inserted Donald Trump, was his negotiation between the two and prisoner exchanges. A lot of things have been done that have never been done before in this place. We have a new area opened up. I've been referring to it as the middle ground. It sits between the higher gate and the lower gate. It is not the intent of the all, which is the tree of life, to throw any soul off. But in order to make the gate, they had to be of a particular weight and speed of vibration. Because if they try and go through the gate at the wrong speed or vibration, they end up fracturing, they break apart on the gate, and it's considered a really bad fate. Bad enough that in their mercy, they would rather euthanize the soul than have that happen. The speed of your vibration is directly connected to your consciousness, how awake you are. And so this path was opened up for those who couldn't quite make the higher realm of the upper gate, but were too high to go back and revert to lower behaviors and lower consciousness to go through the lower gate. So among these treaties, there were certain laws they couldn't break. We were told, don't get involved in the riots. People who got involved in the riots, their soul was pulled out of the body and put into a jail. And that jail ended up on the sun. We were told, don't fight. Now, people in ships were not allowed to fight. But unfortunately, it also meant people here. So when you gave people the evil eye, or you used remote viewing to spy on someone you were angry at, it's an anger, that was considered spiritual warfare. When you put out curses on people, some of the witches were doing things like truth spells and spells to bind, graveyard spells, destiny swapping spells, all of this other kind of stuff. And there were people who called themselves Christians who were also using the Bible to try and curse people. And all of that is a breach of law. And then there was the testing. You know, everybody had to be tested. So you'd see people in the public be put into a position, and then they would fail that position. Well, they failed their test. They were given a chance to move forward, and then failed. So many people who were from the East were already pulled in, and they left only a skeleton crew behind. And all this last years have been dividing the West. And after the West was divided, I had no idea that they were going to divide the jail. And that's what we've been spending these last years on, is dividing the jail. And of course, this is what I've decided to skip on explaining what's going on in the picture. I'll only tell you a little bit of it. They remove the mask, they bind the person, and they seal all the incarnates up with them. And then they ship them in through a portal into whichever hell world they're going to. And that's how they move forward into hell. There are those who don't move forward. They go into the mouth. It really fits the Sistine Chapel image. He eats his share of the division. It's oblivion. We are more or less watching as things wrap up. There is a lot of fear porn. You can't help but see it. It's everywhere. It's spammed everywhere. The propaganda is everywhere. You have to actually work at looking for the good information. Because where you put your attention is where you go at the time of the bull. If you're focused constantly on bad information, on fear porn, on worry, that is designed to lower your vibration. It's done intentionally, and it puts you on a negative path. And I can't say I'm any better. I mean, we all get caught up in it, and it requires constant diligence to catch yourself back up out of it and regain your balance. They told everyone on the subconscious level exactly how this was going to play out. They told us, watch for rainbows, watch for volcanoes going off, meteors hitting, and you'll know it as soon. They told us they were going to make the sun go nova, and that ends this place as well as seals the gate permanently. No one else goes to heaven after this. The two areas will be completely separated. From now on, below will promote their own people within their own area. And at the end of all the books of life, everyone meets at the tree again. This kind of war will never happen again. In the worlds in heaven, there are no wars, no need for weapons, and no scarcity. So if the news contains any of that, understand it's the Other Path movie. When you hear good news, usually politically good news, it's usually the middle ground, which is heaven's side of the gate. They're catching all these people in fraud, all the biolabs, all the different things that are being shaken loose right now for you to become aware of. In our movie, there are a lot of wins. One of the best ones that have popped up with one of the timeline mergers is the website called prometheanaction.com. And they are very good at breaking down at what is actually going on behind some of the negotiations that you're seeing and that others are putting a spin on. So, again, it's a lot of information all the time, all day, every day. And sometimes it can be just more than we need. Sometimes we just need to take a break and learn something new, or put our focus on something else, or just watch a chillin' cat video. I'll see you again soon.